This module presents a comprehensive, in-depth exploration of the rule of law and due process, which are foundational principles underpinning constitutional governance and the protection of civil rights. The module examines the philosophical roots, legal doctrines, and practical applications of these principles as they ensure fairness, accountability, and legality in the exercise of governmental power. 1. Understanding the rule of law, definition, and significance. Conceptual foundations. The rule of law is a principle asserting that all persons, institutions, and government entities are accountable to laws that are publicly promulgated, equally enforced, and independently adjudicated. Philosophical origins. Traces to thinkers such as Aristotle, law should govern, Dicey, rule of law as absence of arbitrary power, and Fuller, law as morality in action. Key elements: supremacy of law, equality before the law, transparency and accessibility of laws, accountability of government officials, legal certainty and predictability, rule of law versus rule of men, contrasts governance based on established laws versus discretionary, arbitrary decisions. 2. Due process, meaning and types. Definition: due process ensures fair legal procedures when the government acts to deprive an individual of life, liberty, or property. Substantive due process focuses on the fundamental fairness of laws themselves, ensuring laws do not infringe on basic rights unjustly. Procedural due process requires fair procedures such as notice, hearing, and impartial adjudication before deprivation of rights. Incorporation in constitutions examines how different constitutions embed due process guarantees, e.g., the 5th and 14th Amendments in the U.S. The rule of law in practice checks on government power, preventing abuse of power through legal frameworks and judicial enforcement, separation of powers and rule of law, how constitutional checks reinforce the rule of law, legal certainty, the importance of clear, stable laws for individuals and businesses, transparency and access to justice, open government, access to legal remedies, and the role of independent judiciary. 4. Due process protections. Fair notice and hearing, ensuring individuals understand the charges or legal actions against them and have an opportunity to respond. Impartial tribunal, the right to be judged by an unbiased and competent authority. Right to counsel and legal representation, guarantees for defense in criminal and some civil proceedings. Protection against self-incrimination and double jeopardy. Safeguards in criminal justice processes. 5 challenges and contemporary issues. Balancing security and rights. Due process concerns in counterterrorism and national security contexts. Access to justice in developing societies. Overcoming barriers like corruption, poverty, and weak institutions. Rule of law in authoritarian regimes. Examining the erosion of rule of law and its impact on rights. Technology and rule of law. Emerging questions around digital governance, surveillance, and algorithmic justice. Case studies and examples. The U.S. Supreme Court's development of due process jurisprudence, e.g., Miranda v. Arizona, Gideon v. Wainwright. Rule of law challenges in transitional democracies. International frameworks promoting rule of law, e.g., UN World Justice Project. The impact of landmark cases on procedural fairness and government accountability. Learning outcomes for Module 6. Upon completion of this module, you will be able to define and explain the rule of law and its essential components. Understand the distinction between substantive and procedural due process. Analyze the role of rule of law and due process in preventing arbitrary governance. Identify constitutional guarantees and protections related to due process. Critically assess contemporary challenges to rule of law and due process in diverse contexts.